Today I want to tell you about Chronicles of Crime Noir, which is an expansion of the game Chronicles of Crime that I played and reviewed a couple of months ago, and I liked it very much. It is a game in this recent trend of narrative-oriented games that really are about the story that unfolds as you interact with the components, as you discover new things. It's not about an infinitely replayable small system like checkers or chess. It is about discovering a story. Because of that, these games have short longevity, because once you complete a scenario, you know the secrets of the scenarios. I guess you can play the same scenario again to optimize things, but the joy of the discovery, the joy of the plot twist is gone. On the other hand, okay, you had to pay that price, but then precisely because of that, you have all the twisty situations that usually we enjoy in fiction more than you can enjoy in traditional games. So this is the trade-off. More story equals less replay value. But if you see how successful this style of game has been in the last years, you know that there are a lot of people that are perfectly happy with that trade-off. Because of this, however, as I talk about Chronicles of Crime and Noir, I'm not gonna show you anything. I'm not gonna show you a single component from Noir because no spoilers, absolute secrecy. I'll tell you what you find in terms of the kind of components you find, but I'm not going to reveal anything about the content of the scenarios. In general, Chronicles of Crime is an app-enhanced game. Basically, you will have cards representing locations, items, and people, and then you need to download a free app, and as you launch a scenario, well, the app will tell you what's happening, the situation, which cards are relevant. Maybe there's one place where somebody was killed, a client, a couple of people that may be suspects or involved in the case. So basically the scenario will tell you which cards representing which elements of the story are available at the beginning. And then what you do is you go around scanning things to unlock new content. It's a really smart system, and it's really impressive actually after a while how you really learn to talk to the system and you really get the illusion that actually you're interacting with a dynamic living story world. Basically, for example, if you scan a card representing a character, what happens is that you enter a menu, a conversation menu, and once you're in a conversation mode, anything you scan means you're talking about that something with the character. I enter a conversation with a character called Alice, for example. Now I scan Anne, but I'm asking Alice about Anne. Or scanning a gun, then I'm asking her if she's ever seen that gun. And so on and so forth. If I'm not in a conversation menu, I scan a location, then I go to that location where people may be available at that time, not yet, not anymore. Basically, each choice that you make will take time in the story world, and so windows of opportunity come and go. You go to a location where you're being told a person is, and you meet somebody and they tell you, well, but now the person is somewhere else, and then you can travel there, or you'll find him at that location only after 8 p.m. You really have this illusion of immersion, which is particularly strong. Chronicles of Crime did that with a selection of scenarios set in contemporary times. Chronicles of Crime Noir gives you several scenarios set in the world of the hard-boiled / noir. Yeah, there's this weird double label for this genre. When I think about other genres, I say sci-fi. It's a sci-fi movie and a sci-fi book. We don't change the label. It's always sci-fi. But actually, hard-boiled we use to define the literature, and noir film to define the same genre on the big screen. So noir is hard-boiled on screen and hard-boiled is noir on the page. I guess they went for the noir because it also sounds more exotic, but actually I think I like all the two terms, the hard-boiled better. I also happen to be a fan of the genre. And so in these scenarios here, we are in America in the this is set in the late 1940s. after the war. That's okay. That's an interesting choice. So the golden age of hardboiled to me is the 1930s, but we still have some good stuff in the late 40s. So the story is set in the 1940s, late 40s, which however has the advantage of maybe also having some characters that just returned from the war, so you can acknowledge that as a theme. So we're in America. Dark, gritty, urban landscapes. The noir slash hardboiled is about cities, it's about gangs, it's about tough people, it's about people that have been hardened by a cynical society. And so you're one of these tough detectives. Actually, also to represent the fact that it's a different situation and you can do different things from Chronicles of Crime, there is one main mechanical change. Most of what you find in Noir is the same kind of component that you have in the base game, just representing a different story world. But mechanically there is one change, which is you have 4 new actions represented by 4 cards. You can follow somebody, and a lot of thinking of hardboiled detectives is done simply by walking after somebody and seeing what happens, or driving after somebody and seeing what happens. So you can follow somebody, you can break into a place, you can bribe somebody, or you can act tough, which sometimes gets you something and sometimes gets you punched in the face, which is very thematic because hard-boiled detectives are tough, they're hard, but they are not superhumans, so they can still go down easily if somebody attacks them. They're still humans that act tough, and sometimes in the original story somebody calls their bluffs, and sometimes in the game maybe it happens too. So you have these 4 actions that to me are really atmospheric, are really thematic, they really match the setting of the game. However, they ramp up the difficulty even more. And this is one thing about this game that may be a little problematic / controversial. And I tell you right ahead, pretty much I'll summarize my conclusions here. I like Chronicles of Crime very much. I like the atmosphere of Chronicles of Crime Noir very much. I like the stories, I like the situations. I found them horribly difficult to solve. I wasn't able to solve any of the cases. In one case I retrieved one precious item, but I still couldn't figure out a fraction of what was actually happening around that item. I found them incredibly difficult. In a sense, that also matches the original literary and filmic sources, because the hardboiled and the noir genre came to be also as a reaction to the Agatha Christie style of novels, where everything was clear, understandable, everything was a nice puzzle, and the writers in this other genre were like, well, reality is actually messy, it's blurry, it's full of gray areas, and so we're gonna have stories that are gonna be messy, blurry, full of gray areas, morally ambiguous, to represent reality better. So to an extent I'm okay that at the end of a case I'm like, okay, there are many things I did not really understand. On the other hand, of course, when you're reading a book, watching a movie, you're entering this world of ambiguity, it's fine, but when you're playing a game, then you're actually called to solve the case, and if you find that in fact the case was incredibly difficult, ambiguous, complex, it feels realistic, but it also feels like the game set you up for failure to start with. Back to the idea, so the cases are difficult and complicated to start with. At least this is my impression. I found them much more difficult than the cases in the base game. And that difficulty to me is increased precisely by the fact that you have 4 more actions that you could potentially attempt with almost any and all characters. That is, say you have 4 characters that you're interacting with, and there are 5 items and 5 locations, so you already have a number of things. Because I could ask character A about character B, C, D, and E. I could ask them about item A, B, C, D. I could ask them about those locations. On top of that, I can also try those 4 actions. I'm not one of the greatest mathematicians of our age, but I guess that at the very least quadruples the possible number, or quintuples, or something uples the number of possible interactions. And basically each scenario has one true way, that is, well, you need to solve the case, ask the right thing to the right person, and or do the right thing. Basically, on one hand, I love that we have more options, but in terms of complexity, that also means we have more dead ends. We have more actions that if we attempt, they're not going to give us anything. They're going to waste us time. The scenarios have a limited amount of time. That means a limited amount of interactions that you have. So there are more dead ends. There are more red herrings. Some of these actions actually are you can't take them back. With thematic it makes sense, but if you act tough with somebody and maybe the person will never talk to you for the rest of the game, it may be an important window of opportunity sealed there for the rest of the game. So, don't get me wrong, I like Chronicles of Crime Noir very much. I feel that the game doesn't like me as much. I still enjoyed it, even though sometimes when I enter my solution, the app told me something along the lines of like, you sit back on the couch, stare at the ceiling, and you think to yourself, you had no idea what happened here. You absolutely failed this entirely, etc., etc., etc. And I was like, yeah, I guess I did. And I found myself, in fact, I was so confused, I didn't even get the sense, well, try again and do better. I just read the solution, I was like, yeah, I'm okay that I gave up, because there's just no way I was able to find that clue in that location at that time, leading me to that interaction where I'll be able to do the right thing, etc., etc., etc. And then even after I have all the things, some things in the explanations still seemed a little random, which again fits the theme, but makes it hard. So on one hand, kudos to the publisher that tried to go in a direction attempting to capture a genre which is very thematic, very atmospheric. I think that element has been done very well. When you try to make it work in a game, well, actually readability, causality, A leads to B equals C, that makes a little more sense. In a sense, well, I love Chronicles of Crime. I think it's a fantastic system, and I hope we're going to have a million more scenarios. I hope at some point we're going to have the classic English expansion. So we're gonna have Poirot and Miss Marple and Peter Wimsey, and we're gonna have again that classic sense in which you're gonna have the atmosphere, nice stories, but you're also gonna have a puzzle that, although hard, is somewhat rationally solvable. You can reverse engineer the situation and figure out the mystery. Because I like following these detectives, talking to these tough people in the scenarios. I like immersing myself in the story world, but I guess I also wouldn't have mind in solving some of the cases or getting a sense of what the heck was going on. So, Chronicles of Crime Noir. Its strongest point may also be its weakest point, or maybe its biggest flaw, which is it is really faithful to the original atmospheres, which have to do with the impenetrable mysteries of the human mind, but precisely because of that, these are also cases that at least I found pretty much impenetrable. I enjoyed the atmosphere. As a game, I found it very hard to digest.